Hi, this is Nancy Yearout, and welcome to my show, High Road to Humanity. In every episode, I tell you powerful true stories filled with great wisdom that you can use in your own life as you strive for a higher road to travel. My featured guests will have their own unique stories to tell that enlighten your mind and your soul. So kick back, relax, and learn the secret to success when you take the high road.
First touch, strong connection, it lays deep in your soul.
Hi, this is Nancy Yearout, and welcome to High Road to Humanity. And I'm here today with Bonny Meyer. Now, Bonnie's been here before. She's written a really cool book. It's called Perfectly Paired, and we've had her on the show for this book. But today, she's going to teach us, this is cool, guys, so share the show. She's going to teach us how to use that reset button. She's going to give us, when we reset, we're going to go from the path to fear to peace. And she's going to teach us how to do that on the show today. So I'm really excited she's here. But before I bring her on, let me just really quick talk about what's happening with humanity. I want to say that Harris is going to travel down to, this is our vice president, down to Guatemala, Mexico, amid the criticism over the border crisis. And the reason I'm bringing this up is I had Tim Enlow on the show a couple days ago, maybe a few days ago, and he was down at the border and he reported what was happening down at the U.S. Texas border in Mexico down there on the southern border, and that all the immigrants are coming in here from Guatemala. They're not just coming from Mexico, they're coming from all different places. And you can check that show out on my YouTube video, but it's some scary stuff. And there are thousands of immigrants coming across every day. And it says that on Wednesday, she'll travel down to Guatemala and Mexico as part of her role in tackling the root causes of the swirling migration crisis at the southern border. And she faces intense criticism for her alleged lack of action on the crisis. And I'm going to agree with that because this gentleman's down there filming, and what I saw and what he told me was unbelievable. And there are children that are being molested and abused and acting out sexually. And I don't even want to get into the craziness that's happening. So something does need to be done. So I wanted to mention that today. Also, this was kind of crazy too. New York CNN business, Bernie Madoff died this morning. His death was Wednesday at the Federal Medical Center in the prison in Butner, North Carolina. It was confirmed by the U.S. Bureau of Prisons. Cause of death was not released, but in February 2020, he petitioned the courts for an early release from prison, stating that he had terminal kidney failure and a life expectancy of less than 18 months. But the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York said Madoff's crime was unprecedented in scope and magnitude, and Madoff was not, he was denied his request. He was the mastermind, as you all recall, behind a $20 billion Ponzi scheme, the largest financial fraud in history. So we'll see how the Lord greets him. That should be interesting. All right. Now, today, I've got Bonny Meyer here. And if you don't know Bonny, she's been on the show before. Let me read her bio real quick. She's a very interesting lady, and I really like her. So I'm glad she's back. She's the principal of Meyer Family Enterprises. It's an investment company dedicated to the regeneration of the planet and society. And after selling Silver Oak Cellars in 2001, so she had a winery, Bonnie's now a partner in the Meyer Family Cellars. She's a winery. It's a winery run by her son, Matt, and her daughter-in-law, Karen. She's the author of Perfectly Paired, and she has her own podcast, you guys. It's called Divine Conversations with Bonny Meyer. Bonny, welcome to High Road to Humanity.
Thank you, Nancy. It's great to be here with you again today.
It's nice to see you. You're going to teach us some cool stuff. Before we get into it, what's going on? You're in California, right?
I'm in, right now I'm in Maui.
Oh, God bless. Are you in Maui?
Yeah.
All right. Well, what's going on in Maui?
Yeah. I came here for the COVID winter, and it was a really good choice.
Yeah, I bet.
And yeah.
Wow.
I've had a condo here for a long time. I've never spent more than a couple weeks, and it has been fabulous being here. You and I were just talking about Kate, Montana. Kate, Montana, and I have recently become friends because she lives here up country, And so, yeah, things are good. I still do spend most of my day at my computer, which is my office. But it's wonderful to have these ocean breezes and warmer weather. And I had a papaya for breakfast. So,
Oh,
life
wow.
is good.
I love it. That's awesome. That's fantastic. And what's going on with the COVID? Has it kind of, leveled off there a little bit or what?
One of the reasons I came to Maui is because the COVID cases were so much less here
Hmm.
than in Northern California.
Okay.
And so they've always remained fairly low.
Hmm.
And Hawaii is one of the later states to get vaccines. Hawaii tends to be a bit forgotten
Hmm.
part of the states, but now they're beginning to give vaccines, and things are kind of moving along. So things are actually as good as they can be
Okay.
here. Yeah.
Okay. I won't get into the whole vaccine thing, but it's been coming across the news that they pulled the Johnson and Johnson, I
Right.
because there's people who are having reactions from it, blood clots in women. I read that
Mhm.
yesterday. I'm not real big on it. I'm not going to get it, but who to each his own. But yeah, it's a whole situation, craziness going on. And I guess that's why you're going to
Mhm.
talk to us about bringing peace, right?
Well, I was telling you earlier, I just had a day yesterday, and it doesn't, you know, we all have days that are more stressful than others and moments that are more stressful than others.
Mhm.
And so, what I wanted to share with you, Nancy, today and all your listeners is how to move from stress to tranquility pretty quickly. And some of the good news is that joy, gratitude, and peacefulness are actually states deep within each and every one of us, and they're foundational. And um, and so today we're gonna practice shifting from fear and anxiety, which comes up. Well, there are also deep states, and we're gonna practice shifting it in a matter of minutes to access the balance, joy, and inner peace that always is there underneath. And so I want to invite everyone here to consider and then come to know that the joy, gratitude, and peace are ways of being within us all. And
Yes.
then to understand that fear, stress, and anxiety are all health and life threatening.
Mhm. It's interesting
And
you would say that because we've been trained, society has been trained to be fearful. Isn't that interesting?
yes,
We're a fearful nation, actually, the United
very much.
States. Yeah. And I had an
Yeah,
astrologer on the show
very.
yesterday and he talked about that. And he said the United States chart, you'll find this interesting. I'll interject here really quick and then I'll let you do your thing. But I thought this was interesting.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
said the United States astrological chart is fearful. It's always been fearful. And I had no idea that that's part of our energy here. Isn't that crazy?
I've been very aware that it our seems like our politicians have really induced and encouraged fear. It never occurred to me that we've always been fearful.
Hmm.
So, but shifting out of that is so important just for our own sense of well-being, but it really is life-threatening.
Yeah.
At toward the end, I'm going to introduce the reset button,
Okay.
and and then and when we finished, I'm hoping that everyone here will feel confident that you can shift from fear to peace in 30 seconds.
Nice.
Okay, so
Yes.
that's the that's
Yes.
the goal.
Yes.
Um, so now, first thing, we're going to play with emotions for a minute.
Okay.
So, how are you? How are you feeling right now, Nancy?
I'm a little stressed.
Okay.
I am. I mean,
Okay.
I'm overwhelmed right now. I have a lot of business going
Yeah.
on right now. So I'm just
Yeah.
overwhelmed with life, to be honest with you. I'm centered, but overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to this is just play, and this is to distinguish between emotions and then a state of being.
Okay.
So play along with me,
Okay.
and everyone who's listening can do the same thing.
All right. We got 2 minutes before commercial break. I'm just telling you that.
Okay.
Go.
Okay. Lift your eyebrows. Open your eyes really wide. Now, how do you feel? Do you feel surprised?
I
A
feel
little
like,
bit?
yeah, like more open.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna play with another one.
I like
Furrow
that.
your eyebrows, set your teeth, and lock your jaw.
Hmm.
Do you feel a little bit angry, possibly?
No.
No. Or I don't know, or determined, or
Maybe determined.
something. It's different.
Determined.
Yeah.
Because I'm not
Very,
angry. Yeah, determined.
it's very different than the other one,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
the last one, relax your jaw,
Okay.
lift your chin,
Okay.
and look up. Look up to the ceiling. Relax your jaw, kind of let your mouth open a little bit.
Okay. I felt hopeful. Why do I feel hopeful?
Yeah,
I feel
hopeful, kind of,
hopeful.
and maybe even a sense of awe.
Yeah.
And we typically think of our emotions as a reaction to an event, but our emotions actually are connected to our physical expression, and we
Correct.
can change our emotions. We can decide what emotion we want to feel by changing our body language.
Right.
So it's a fascinating thing. I'm going to let you go to break, and we can
Well, when you
talk
say
about
that,
this
when you
again.
say this, it makes me think of Louise Hay, change your thinking, change your life. And she always talked about how everything affects you physically, that combination of both, But yeah, we got to go to commercial break.
Right.
So we'll talk about it when we come back.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
this is Nancy Yearout. I'm here today with Bonny Meyer. If you haven't picked up her book, you guys, I'm holding it up if you're watching me on YouTube. It's called Perfectly Paired. I'm pushing her book a little because I really liked it. The Love Affair Behind Silver Oak Cellars. This is Nancy Yearout. This is High Road to Humanity, and we'll be right back. Hi, it's Nancy Yearout. This is High Road to Humanity. I'm here today with Bonny Meyer. Bonnie, this is cool. Continue on.
Okay. Well, I'm going to take that one step further and just say that. So notice how amazing, how quickly we can actually change our emotion.
Mhm.
And if I can use this, if I decide that I want to feel determined, I can use a facial expression or body language that has me looking determined, and then I will begin to feel determined. If I want to look and feel confident, I can just shift into that body language.
Okay.
And so it's a skill that is useful. But that was kind of something we were playing with. I want to actually really talk about not emotions that are more fleeting, but about resident states of being.
Okay.
Again, like joy, gratitude,
Yeah.
peace, fear, resentment. They're all states of being, and
Mhm.
they're in there deeper than our passing emotions.
Mhm.
They are like the undercurrent or the foundational states underneath. They can be, and they too can be practiced and become our natural default state, which is
Right.
so cool, right?
Well,
And
Bonnie, I always call it reprogramming. Like I've got
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
reprogramming myself right now, actually. And I've got a sticky note on a couple mirrors, and I told Jean to code this on the show. It says think happy thoughts. And I do this because I'm trying to reprogram. Is that kind of what you're talking about too? Yeah.
Kind of, yeah,
Okay. All right.
exactly, yeah.
All right.
Um, so I'm going to tell you a little story. It's actually in my book, and in Perfectly Paired. Um, I tell the story about how Jessa and I started and grew a winery for 30 years. And then after that time, we sold it to our partner, Ray Duncan. And in part of that sale, there's a thing where if you have property, commercial property, you can do something called a 1031 exchange.
Yeah, I know.
So you buy another piece of property, commercial property, and you don't have to pay the taxes
Mhm,
at that moment.
mhm.
You can kind of defer them.
Yes,
And so it's a good idea. It's something that's used often.
yes. I'm a
And
realtor. You probably don't know I'm a real estate broker.
I didn't know that.
But yeah,
Okay.
I know about 1031 exchanges.
Yeah.
But yes, that's exactly what you do. Mm,
And so following the sale of with the winery we sold vineyard, um, we entered into a 1031 exchange for a rice mill in Woodland, California.
mhm.
And I was just beginning to recover from major abdominal cancer surgery at the time. And I was in a rather foggy state. I was literally sitting in my pajamas during the meeting in our home with talking with these two guys when I agreed to this exchange. So I was saying yes, but okay, whatever. Right? I was in that state of mind.
Right.
Then 4 months later, Justin suddenly dies of a heart attack. And a few months after that, the mill operators contacted me and said that they were in deep trouble and had stopped making lease payments. And at the time, I was debilitated by grief. I was out of my depth. I knew nothing about the rice industry. And and I feared that if everything fell apart, what in the world would I do with the rice mill? I mean, at the time I was paralyzed by fear and
Mhm.
I could not think straight. But I have, Nancy, you and I have an advantage. We are women and we ask for help and directions.
We do.
Right?
That's true. That's absolutely true.
so so I called the Center for Attitudinal Healing that was created by my friend Jerry Jampolsky.
That's really cool.
They it was based on the Course in Miracles and his book Love is Letting Go of Fear.
Mm,
And at the heart of these principles is the concept that we can choose our attitude in
yes.
every moment. It's similar to what Louise Hay talks about.
Mhm.
The center's first support groups were, just to give you a little background, were for children and adults dying of cancer and those who were caring for them. And they taught that you could choose peace and love over fear, regardless of the circumstances, even in the most dire circumstances. I was first introduced to the concept as a teenager, actually, by reading Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning.
Okay.
He was in Nazi death camps, and he paid attention to people around him and noticed that he could predict who was likely to live and who was likely to die. And he realized that attitude determined the outcome,
Isn't that
that when
something?
everything else is taken away, the power to choose one's attitude remains. It is the most fundamental human freedom. That's a
It,
really important statement.
it is. And I just want to say something. I had Angel Whisperer Michael on a few days ago, and he works with the angels. And what the angels taught him that was the most important was to love thyself.
Mm.
And that's what you're saying. Because if you love yourself, then your attitude's good, right?
You'll choose, yeah, and you choose your attitudes wisely, and
Yeah, it
not,
says that in the Bible too. Love thyself. And we don't
yeah,
talk about that. And nobody
no,
says that. Because that's exactly what you're talking about. The people in the camp, if they love themselves enough, they were able to continue on. That's what I pick up from that. Am I right?
mm-hmm, absolutely,
Yeah. Love
absolutely, brilliant, Nancy.
thyself. Love
Yeah,
thyself. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So knowing these things, I called the Center for Attitudinal Healing, Don Goey, who was
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
ED there,
Hmm.
and he had had a conversation with the vice president of Charles Schwab a year before, who said, who had had a heart attack at 40 and said, "Why don't you teach this stuff before we have a heart attack?"
Yeah.
So Don developed some tools for business, and he coached me in using the reset button to calm my fear.
Oh,
And so back to the rice mill. So after practicing this reset button
okay.
a number of times, I felt a new sense of peace and mental clarity.
Mhm.
And so I sat at my dining room table and I covered it in flowcharts of all the possibilities and courses of action that I could think of taking. And it became clear to me that a hard-nosed approach, if I demanded rent, I would end up without a tenant and I would likely have to find someone interested in buying a rice mill. And I had met a few of these kind of big guys, and I knew that I would be taken advantage of in a
Ah,
distress sale, right? I
okay.
just, right, not knowing anything. And, but I realized also that if I was generous and allowed the tenant to regroup via a few months of rent relief,
Mhm.
that together we could actually get the mill sold. We could do it together. And so I had shifted into a state of generosity
Yes.
instead of fear.
Well, yeah, because the fear makes you angry and makes you do things that are wrong. When you're in grace, you feel different. Wow.
That's exactly right. And so in that state, I enlisted an attorney who was a brilliant strategist, and I laid out my conclusions, and together we came up with a strategy. And the conclusion of that story is that I ended up making an 8.5% return on that investment instead
Wow.
of losing everything.
Wow.
And at the
Because you
end of the day,
changed your attitude. Because you changed your attitude.
that's right. And
That's
and after that, I made a big donation to the Center for Attitudinal Healing. Right?
ah, how wonderful. Give
It's
back.
only right.
Yes. Yes. That is fabulous.
Uh,
Thank you. That is so that's how you learned about the reset button.
yes,
Wow.
that's exactly how I was desperate. We are actually pretty open for learning when we're desperate,
Did you pray
don't you think? We're a
before?
little
Well,
more
yeah.
open.
Yeah. Well, and I just want to ask,
Mhm.
did you pray? Did you say, God, give me the answer and then you found it? Or I just want to make that, or did you just find it? Or do you think it was divine? I mean, I'm not trying to make it any different than it was, but I'm just asking, was there any divine intervention in that one? I mean,
There-
it seems like it.
there's divine intervention and synchronicity every day in my
There
life.
you go. I
Yeah.
love it. I love it.
Yeah.
All right, we got about 2 minutes to break. So what do we do now?
Well, I'll take 2 minutes to talk about the anatomy of fear.
Okay.
So let's really look at that for a second.
Okay.
We've got a primitive brain with the amygdala in the middle of it. It saves us from a charging tiger. It's an automatic response. Our heart races. It feeds blood into our muscles so that we can run away. It's and away from our brain. It shuts off our digestion. We don't need it if we're going to be lunch. Um, it sees danger everywhere, and everyone is an enemy,
Yeah.
which is, and all of that's good if we're being chased by a tiger. It's
Mhm.
not good if fear is this chronic state of mind. So chronic stress is a killer. It causes heart disease, diabetes, obesity,
Mhm.
animosity. It
Mhm.
hampers our immune system. It shrinks our brain mass.
Wow.
Um, it lowers our IQ, and our clear decision making is not working, and it contributes to interpersonal problems and family
Yeah.
dysfunction.
Yeah.
So um, all of those things. There's so many reasons why we don't want to be stuck in
Right.
stress and fear.
Okay. When we come back from commercial break, you can tell us how we can fix all this. Hey, you guys,
I'm
I'm here.
gonna.
Cool. Thank you, Bonnie. I'm here today with Bonnie Meyer. I just want to show you her book again. It's called Perfectly Paired. If you guys are interested, pick it up on Amazon. She does have a really cool YouTube show called Divine Conversations with Bonnie. This is Nancy Yearout. This is High Road to Humanity, and we will be right back. Hi, it's Nancy Yearout. I'm here today with Bonnie Meyer. Bonnie is going to teach us how to reset. I'm ready.
I'm gonna before we completely start, I'm gonna share a couple cute quotes. We were
Okay.
talking about stress and fear,
Yeah.
and one is an anonymous quote, and it says, "I've been surrounded by troubles all my life long, but there is a curious thing about them. 9/10 of them never happened."
True.
And then another one, "Fear is the cheapest room in the house. I'd like to see you in better living conditions." That's from that's from Hafiz.
I like that. I think
Um,
that's great.
so fear lives in the future, and it's legitimized by our perceptions of the past. Oh, that happened before. It's going to happen again. Oh my God. Peace and tranquility live in the present. The value of meditation is that we can watch our thoughts and we enter into the present. The
Mhm.
challenge is most of us don't have the opportunity to sit and meditate for 45 minutes every time fear arises. If I'm in my middle of my workday, or if I'm in the middle of a conversation or a meeting or whatever, I
Mhm.
can't, "Oh, excuse me, I'm going to go meditate," right?
Yeah, let me just take
So,
a minute.
so the reset button.
Okay.
This is that practice that I use to create the positive outcome for the rice mill. So everyone, Nancy and everyone, close
Okay.
your eyes
Okay.
and imagine that there is a button on the palm of your hand
Okay.
that sends a signal to your brain to calm your anxiety. Press the center of your palm
Okay.
and keep pressing it. Now imagine an electrical signal is traveling to your brain and begins to quiet you down. Become aware of your breath. We are going to count to 3, thinking of each number in color. So take a breath in, and on the exhale, think of a red number 1. Take in the second breath, and on the exhale, think of blue number 2. Take in a third breath, and on the exhale, think of a green number 3.
Okay.
Now, on the very next breath, let your mind go blank. Let go and relax into the present moment. Be right here, right now, aware of your breath. Yes, you just allow yourself to breathe another couple times, 3 times. Just revel in that present, in that peaceful present that's there underneath everything else.
Am I still holding my button?
Yeah,
Okay.
why not? Now close. So slowly open your eyes and refocus on the world around you.
Wow.
And for a moment, make a commitment to be more accepting of life as it is, peaceful and happier on the inside. Mark Twain, actually, it's really good to use this the the reset button just at the moment, right before the stress reaction really takes hold. So if you feel like stress is coming up, that's when you do it. And because you can do it in a way that's so subtle, just by pressing the palm of your hand, nobody else in the room needs
Knows.
to know.
Bonnie, that worked. I want to tell the audience real quick that worked. Did you see how calm I got? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty type A. That was wonderful. Thank you. I
So
needed
Mark,
that, Bonnie. Thanks, Bonnie.
yep, you're welcome.
Yeah.
So the reason why you want to do it earlier rather than late, before you really get stressed out, is,
Mhm.
as this Mark Twain says, it's easier to stay out of trouble than it is to get out of trouble.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
That's exactly
And
true.
so before your primitive mind takes over and goes into full blown reaction,
Mhm.
yeah, then that's the time to press the reset button.
Depressors.
Now here's why it works.
Okay.
Our primitive brain amygdala functions like a 2-year-old having a tantrum.
I believe that.
And right?
Yeah.
And distracting our 2-year-old brain by counting and seeing colors short circuits the stress trauma.
Oh,
Isn't that interesting?
it really is, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
Huh.
And then when it comes to actually resetting your creating new neural pathways, when
Mhm.
you use this reset button enough, you will have rewired your brain for default tranquility.
I love it. This is awesome. I really like this. So you do this all the time. So once you learned it, now you do it all the time.
Actually, once I learned it, and I almost hate to tell you the shortcut because I want you all out there to practice the reset many
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
But my short, I can take 3 breaths, nothing else, and I'm done.
And
I'm right in the present.
bring it
Yeah,
back. Bring it back.
yeah.
Yeah. And I guess that's what I've been trying to do, balance, because when we first got on the Zoom today, you said you look balanced. And I said, I am balanced because I've learned to balance, but I even like that better. I just want to mention one thing that I think would help people that I've been doing. I get up in the morning and I write down, like, all those frustrations. A lot of people send them up into a cloud and they send them to the sun, but I write them, okay, God, this person was like, can you believe that? And please. And I write it all down and I get it all out, on paper. And then when I do, I feel much better.
Yeah.
And I just write it to God. I'm like, God, what is up with this? And what's up with that? And how come this? And but it's releasing that tension because for some reason, and I want to ask you this, if you have the same thing, when I get up in the morning, you sleep and then you wake up thinking of all those things. Why is that?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Right? Right?
Yeah. We are. So, people talk about monkey mind. Well, why is monkey mind? Our our brains actually are amazing computers. They're really not a whole lot different than this computer that I'm looking at and using right here.
Right.
And they are our brains are problem-solving machines.
Mm-hmm.
And they are on automatic. They will keep computing without stop.
Mm-hmm.
And what meditation is, and shifting into the present or into a peaceful, tranquil place,
Mm-hmm.
that is actually kind of stepping back from our mind,
Mm-hmm.
stepping back from our brain.
Mm-hmm.
Our brain doesn't have an off button.
I know. That's why a lot of
And
people would say they can't meditate, but your brain doesn't shut off. You just have to watch those thoughts go by is the key to that whole thing.
well, that's right. And what's so profound about what you just said, Nancy, is think about it. If I can watch my thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
if I can watch my imagination,
Mm-hmm.
who's watching? Who's watching? If I can watch my thoughts, then my thoughts are not me.
There's something else.
There's something else. Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. It's the programming.
It's
It's
so if I
really
can
okay. I see what you're
so if,
saying. This is
So,
pretty in-depth stuff here we're talking
yeah,
about now.
yeah,
Okay, go ahead. Continue. I get you. I get you. Go
Hang
ahead.
in there with me if you
I'm
can.
with you.
Yeah. If I can watch my thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
then I am not my thoughts. And most people would call who I am or what that is higher consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
I can engage when I meditate and get to a still place. I've shifted into that more powerful, more expansive field of consciousness
Right.
that is beyond my thoughts.
Right. And when you do that, and when I do that and I connect, that's when I get the messages.
There, yeah, right.
That's when you get the messages, you guys. When you can just sit and watch your thoughts go by, then the messages come in from the divine, from a higher vibration. And that's meditation in my mind. I don't know. What do you think?
I've just been listening to watching some videos called Superpower, and many of them are about intuition and allowing it. It's same thing. You have to get out of your own way.
Yeah.
You have to kind of sidestep that thinking mind, that monkey mind,
Mhm.
so that intuition has room to come forward.
Yeah. Hey, we got to go to commercial break, you guys. This is Nancy You're Out. I'm here today with Bonny Meyer. We're talking about your reset button, and we'll be right back. Hi, it's Nancy You're Out. This is High Road to Humanity. Hey, I never promote myself enough. You guys, if you want a psychic reading, go to my website, nancyyou'reout.com. I've got a really cool new website. Just click on book and you can go to my calendar and you can pick out your date and time and book with me right there. And I love doing it. I'm having a ball. I'm helping people. And it's a really cool thing. So make sure you guys book with me, nancyyou'reout.com. Okay, Bonny, this has been a really interesting conversation. I mean, we still have our last segment, but gosh, how fun, huh? We're
Well,
all
and
working on ourselves, right?
we are. You and I were both, before we started, we were both talking about personal challenges. And just
Yeah.
because you and I, let's talk about that for a second. Just
Okay.
because you and I have these skills and they're significant, that skill being able to shift into peace and tranquility, be
Mhm.
able to shift into the present, be able to shift into that place of expanded clarity and intuition and psychic ability doesn't mean that we don't have problems just like everybody
Oh,
else.
yeah, of course.
And that there are crazy people in our life
Oh, yeah.
that,
It's how you
that
handle
just,
it. It's how you deal with it. It's
yeah.
how you approach it. And what I've learned, and I want to say this because I've had a lot going on lately, and I look at things now from a different perspective. Instead of looking at things head on, I look at it from out here. I look at it differently. I see the bigger picture.
Mhm. Yeah.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm,
Yeah. Yeah.
mhm.
Let me tell a little story about that. It was a long time ago. I remember sitting in church, and it wasn't a huge church. It was actually a little chapel, but it was a quiet moment. And I kind of looked up to the ceiling. Church ceilings are always usually quite beautiful.
Yeah.
Looking up to the church ceiling, and then I imagined myself kind of floating up there, which I did in my own mind. And I looked down at the people there, at the congregation, and at what was happening. And actually, and I was there for, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes, and it was pretty peaceful up there, actually.
Mhm.
And it was the first time that I ever really felt that perspective, that when I can take myself out of the third row
Yeah, the
in the
third
middle of,
view.
yeah, in the middle of everything that's happening,
Yeah.
and can kind of rise above and get a larger perspective.
Mhm.
It's huge.
Well, yeah, because you look at things completely differently. You don't take it personally. See, years ago, I would take everything personally. Oh, poor me. But now I don't. The whole victim, oh gosh. But now I don't. Now I think, oh, okay, well, that's just how that goes. And you let things maybe it's an age thing too. You kind of just let things go a little bit easier. But yes, when you can see that, the bigger picture. And you know what else I've learned? This is hard to do. When people are really horrible, I send them love.
I was just talking with Kate Montana about that last night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Say more about that, Nancy. How do
Well,
you do
yeah,
that?
well, it's because, and I have trouble too. Just because I'm psychic and all this other stuff doesn't mean that, I don't have issues. And a lot of time, and as an empath, I pick up stuff I don't want to pick up, and I pick up the good and the bad. Okay. And, sometimes it's hurtful, and I have a heart. I have this big heart, and my heart gets hurt. It really does. And I get my feelings hurt probably more than I should because I'm so empathic, because I'm such an empath, and I care about people, and I care what they think. I don't care what they think. I take that back because I don't. I care what God thinks, and that's pretty much it. But when you can get to a point where someone's really nasty to you and you can send them love and light and wish them well, you're not only helping them, you're helping yourself,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you don't carry it anymore. That nasty thing they said, you just dissolved it with
Hmm.
love.
Absolutely.
And it's
Yeah.
hard, but I'm there. And I had to do and I
it's
had to do that this morning. I'm like, okay, God, I'm gonna send love to all these people. And
it's
that's okay.
it's it's hard at first. Well, okay, so we could have a whole nother conversation about
We
forgiveness.
got 7 minutes.
We
Go
want
for it.
we want yeah, we'll have to wait for another time. But
Bonnie.
but but I will tell you one thing that Jerry used to say, and that is not forgiving is like taking poison and expecting the other person to die.
Mhm.
When I hold resentment and anger inside of myself, it literally will make me sick.
Well, yeah.
And I can see the other guy out there having a wonderful time, and I go, "Oh my God, they're not supposed to be having a wonderful time. They're supposed to be suffering
And miserable.
I am so angry at them, but they're not suffering. I am."
Right.
And so not forgiving is like taking poison and expecting the other guy to die.
Mhm.
So that's all I'm going to say on that subject for a second. But I want to get back to when I was a teenager. A teacher handed a card to me with a saying by Teilhard de Chardin, and it said, "Love is the most powerful force in the universe."
Mhm.
And that was one of the most important things I've ever learned in my life.
Yeah.
And when things look really dire and people have really been horrible to me, and as nice as I am, some people are really horrible to
I
me.
know. Yeah, and maybe they're more horrible because they think we can take it. I have no idea why, but go ahead.
um, um, only that's where that's that's where I that's where my power lies. That's where I end up. At first, I can get all activated and upset, but but then I go into my heart and I send them love, and knowing that it is the most powerful thing that I can do.
And it takes a while to get to that point. It really does. You have to really work on things before you can get to that. It's taken me years before I could do that. And
Yeah,
you know,
it's
but once you do, it's very. I want to say one more thing. Louise Hay, always talked about, your body and disease. And, I know my sister died of leukemia. She was in a terrible marriage. And it was the energy, the negativity that she took on that killed her. And I knew that, and I recognized it because it was my sister. And I think people don't realize, and I'm glad you mentioned this and brought it up, that when you hold on to that anger and you hold on to that resentment, it does create disease within the body because you're not releasing it, you're holding on to it, and that's what happens. Disease develops. So it's true.
yeah, Yeah, Bruce Lipton, I was listening to him a couple days ago, and he's so emphatic, disease is a symptom. It's
Yeah.
our thinking that creates these things. Our state of being can actually create inner health, and but it can also create inner disease.
Right.
And not that anyone should feel weird or guilty if they happen to be suffering from some kind of ailment. There's other
Oh,
reasons,
no. Right. There's a lot of
other
other
reasons for
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
for the disease, but it
Mhm.
certainly contributes,
It
and
contributes. Yeah.
it's just miserable along the way. So why not?
Yeah. Because some people come into this life, I believe, to experience different things, and it may be a sickness. So that's another way
Yeah,
that that can happen. I just know that you can take that on. A lot of time, I just want to tell people, if you're in a bad relationship, whether you're married or not, get out of it, because it affects you
please.
physically.
Oh,
And I don't
yeah,
care if it's your mother or your brother or your husband or what it is. When you have people around you who are toxic, that toxic energy, you pick up on that toxic energy.
mm,
So the most thing I could tell anybody is to stay away from toxic people, because it affects us tremendously.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
I love that a little bit ago you mentioned that you were a psychic. I think I'm gonna. I had heard. I knew that,
You
but
knew I
I've
was.
forgotten.
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
really forgotten. I think I
yeah.
want to sign up for a session with you.
There you go. Thank you.
It'd be great. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that. I have a clear knowing of things. I have a connection and with a higher vibration, and I just know things. And I feel like God gave me this so I could help people. And I'll tell you something. It's really cool when I do a reading for somebody. There's a feeling that I really help. That feeling that you help somebody, that you really did, and that's why I do it. And that's why I do the show too, of course. But there is that gratification that you did something good. So anyway, having said that.
Well, it's a gift. I have a gift for music. I can play the guitar,
Oh, cool.
and I don't know how to read music. I can just hear,
And
and we just, we all have different gifts, and
I
it's those abilities that you're talking about. It's a beautiful gift.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Hey, I'm so glad you came on the show today. Tell people about your show real quick before we get out of here. How can they get in touch with you? Give them some info. Sell yourself here, Bonnie.
So I have a website, bonnymeyer.com.
Okay.
It's BONNYMEYER. You can find my book there. You can find some other books. A book my husband wrote about plain talk about fine wine. A cookbook
Oh,
that my daughter wrote on port, using port
nice.
in recipes. Are delicious. You can also find on there some of my YouTubes, and my YouTube channel is Divine Conversations with Bonny Meyer. And I talk about being in the vineyard, and I talk about actually being here on Maui. I've been here for a while over the last few months. And so I'm sharing some aloha, lei making and whale
I
watching
was
and
going
all
to
kinds
say,
of
I
fun things.
saw one of your whale watching things. You were out on a boat and you were whale
Yeah.
watching and you filmed it. I meant to say something about that. That is so cool. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
awesome.
Just sharing the love. Tonight, actually, I'm going to a slack key. It's an instrumental style of guitar playing. I'm going to a slack key concert now. I'm going to film some
Nice.
of that
How
and share
fun.
it later.
Well, thank you
So
for coming
yeah,
on.
so just sharing things that to kind of lighten people's day.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on the high road. I really
You're welcome.
Okay. All right. You guys, don't forget to check out my website, nancyyearout.com. Don't forget to check out Bonnie's website. And this is High Road to Humanity. And we will see you next time. Everybody take care. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
Connect the dots and keep the motion. Can achieve your goal. Let's hit the high road.
Hey, you guys, join me next week on The High Road for more stories filled with wisdom, love, and hope for our future. Have a fabulous week, and know that by staying on the high road, you will make it to your destination. Visit my website, nancyyearout.com, where you can book a private session to learn how to tap into your own abilities. And check out my YouTube channel. It's Nancy Yearout's High Road to Humanity.
You can achieve your goals.